Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max with BuzzTox here, and I am here for the live stream. So I'm really glad that we were able to do it before Game of Thrones launched. We're all pumped. How many hours are we out now? 3 hours until Game of Thrones launches, which is really exciting. I honestly can't believe it. It's very, very bittersweet. I can't believe that, Game of Thrones is ending, right? There's so much anticipation. There's so much that could potentially happen. And I really don't want to fall into the trope. I don't want to get my hopes up. So with this season in particular, I'm really going in with an open mind. I'm just going to, really enjoy the experience. Who knows how it's going to end, even though obviously all of us have our theories and predictions on what we want to happen. But no, really, I just thank you all for coming and being a part of the live stream. This is going to be a long haul on this channel. We're going to cover Game of Thrones to the fullest because it's the last season. So in terms of every episode, like I said in the last live stream, I want to do this tonight, actually, probably around 1 o'clock in the morning. You will have a reaction from me, a reaction interview where I watch the first episode and I go on and give all my thoughts, give my predictions, give my initial reactions. And then after that, I'll watch the whole episode again, do a full-blown breakdown absolutely every part of it. That video is usually a bit longer. Then after that, I'll do a prediction video for the upcoming episode. And then maybe I'll do like a special video, really tethered to, maybe a prediction or maybe an idea that I'm having that I just want to kind of get out there for everyone to see. And I do have some videos that I do want to work on outside of that. So we'll see how it works. Like the Night King, how that Night King video I put up, I'm very proud of it. I just kind of, I worked on that till late. Just kind of threw out my thoughts. Same with how Cersei was defeated. And there's other videos like that I do want to put up. And for those of you who haven't went back and looked at my old videos, go back, look at some of the stuff I did. Some of the videos are, I spent a lot of time on them. I edited them a ton. Go to the main page and go to Game of Thrones Revelations, I believe it's called. I have a Jon Snow or a high video, I have a Varys video, I have a Melisandre video. Somebody said that in the comments. I'm going to go back and answer all the comments, but somebody was like, you need to make a Melisandre video. I did. So go back, watch a video on the Lord of Light. I break down all the predictions and prophecies of the Lord of Light. So there is a lot of good content that you guys can look at and really try and figure out. And if you guys haven't seen that Night King video I put out on how he's going to be defeated, check it out. It's kind of my, for a long time, I've been trying to put into words what I think the arc of Game of Thrones is. And I think I did it properly in that video. I think I was able to properly convey what I think is going to happen with the Night King and what, the whole story is all about. And if you guys want to ask me more questions about that in this chat, by all means, go ahead. We have a lot of time, so we're going to talk a ton of Game of Thrones. I'm really excited. And before we get started, one thing too is I actually invested in a better webcam. It's a little sharper. I know before I watched it back, and I'm like, this is brutal. Like, I got to pick up a new camera, so I did. So that's covered. So yeah, let's just go in the chat and see who's here. Juice was the first one who's here. How's it going? Very good to see you in the chat. He also said he'll support me till I die, or her. So thank you so much. Really appreciate that. That's really nice. And by the way, I'm going to have to ask you guys all ideas on what the hell I'm going to do after Game of Thrones is over. Because, yeah, we need to figure that out. I know that there's a spinoff, but it's going to be very hard because I doubt that there's going to be another show that I'm going to be able to just jump onto like Game of Thrones. Westworld is one of them. But yeah, who really knows at this point? But all I can say is this is going to be Game of Thrones dedicated channel for the next 2 months, I guess. It's so short. I wish we had 10 episodes. Murph Dog in the chat. Hey, buddy, thank you for supporting me for so long. You've been around for a long time. I remember. So thank you so much. I see Fury, 3 hours and 12 minutes, even shorter now. We're very close to hitting Game of Thrones. I'm so excited. And it's going to be a shorter episode too, maybe about, I think it's like 55 minutes. So, and they have a lot of information to convey, and we can get into that later. But a lot of people are coming to Winterfell. It's going to be a sob fest, I guess, because a lot of people are going to be reuniting with each other. We're going to see a lot of unique dynamics between characters. And we just know at the end of the day, a lot of people are going to be arriving at Winterfell based on the trailers and based on, frankly, what makes sense. So we know in the next 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, we're going to see everybody come to Winterfell. And there's going to be a lot of reunions. I just hope that they don't shortchange that, shortchange the dialogue, because we only have 6 episodes to get the story moving. But we'll see what happens. Mary and Jarvis, they retracted their message. Maybe they said something they didn't want to say. I'm not sure. And who else we got here? I See Fury. Many questions will be answered, but many more will be asked. Great. Well, I like a back catalog of questions, and I like being having a lot of back catalog work. And by the way, you know, I'm still getting used to the live stream format. It's like me trying to talk and read at the same time. It's a skill, and I don't know if I have it to the full extent yet. So I think it's going to take me a couple episodes, communicate, read, and like, you know, go through the whole live stream format, right? So be patient with me. Taylor and Stag, hey, how's it going? Finally caught your live stream. I can't wait for tonight's episode. I know it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. And like I said, I'm going to be doing a live stream now every Monday now. Monday nights, I think I'll start doing live streams just to kind of discuss the last episode we watched and kind of predict what's going to happen in the future episodes. So I think that's how we're going to handle live streams going forward. I just thought I'd do it Sunday this time because, you know, I had the time, and why not, you know, geek about Game of Thrones. Spark Daddy, what's up, Spark Daddy? Love the channel. Great, thank you so much. Brandon Hera, hey Max, excited to see the premiere tonight. Give some of your thoughts on what you'd expect in this episode. Perfect. So what I think this episode is going to be, it's just going to get us back in to Game of Thrones, and obviously they can't spend too much time on like that slow build because we only have 6 episodes. So basically this episode has to convey what episode 1 and 2 would in a standard 10 episode season. So I think we're going to see, you know, Jon and Daenerys arrive at Winterfell. We're going to see, first of all the characters coming together that we would want to see. We'll see Arya and Jon come back together. We'll see Jon kind of go back to the crypts of Winterfell. Maybe he'll have some scenes with Daenerys kind of showing her, you know, the crypts, his father. I think Bran and Sam are going to want to talk to Jon to discuss his past and his lineage, which, by the way, I just watched season 7 again, or yeah, episode 7 of season 7 again. And I am not happy with the way that they handled Bran going back, because he's supposed to know everything. And Sam walks in being like, oh, like there was an annulment of Rhaegar Targaryen and all that. And then that makes him realize to go back. But another thing too was Bran was like, I have to tell Jon that he's a bastard named Sand. Why is that significant? You know, your job, Raven, is to defeat the Night King and stop the war for the Dawn, right? So why are you so held up on Jon being a Sand? That doesn't matter. So I just wish the show spent less time talking about Jon being a legitimized Targaryen and more about how he's key in defeating the threat. And maybe those are one and the same. You know, we've seen theories from Melisandre saying that, you know, whoever is Azor Ahai or the prince that was promised will be the one to defeat the Night King. And I've given my long-term thoughts. I think in my White Walker video, I broke it down, you know, long story short, and I can get more into it later. But long story short, you know, if there is a baby being born, that child would be sacrificed. Jon would be Azor Ahai. Daenerys could be Nissa. The baby would be the prince that was promised to the Night King. And then Jon would have to sit on the throne after, or maybe Daenerys, right? So who knows? But yeah, I think just in this episode, we're going to see a lot of characters coming together. In terms of conflict, maybe we'll get a scene of the Night King working his way south, maybe attacking like the Last Hearth or some other northern city or village before coming to Winterfell. You know, maybe the end credits would be the Night King finally destroying that, right? And I think Cersei, we're going to see her establish her armies, establish the Golden Company. We'll probably meet Harry Strickland, who is the Lord Commander of the Golden Company. So I think we'll learn more about them. We'll see their army. We'll see their elephants. We'll see Euron Greyjoy, and we'll see what Cersei's kind of overarching plan is to defeat them. And that's another possibility too. Either I think this episode will also see Jaime. And that'll communicate to Tyrion, and it will communicate to, you know, Daenerys and everyone else that Jaime abandoned Cersei because she's there to betray them. So I think it's just going to kind of open the conflict that we're going to see in the upcoming episode. And I'm pretty confident, based on this episode, I'll have a lot to say on what to expect next, based on just the plot snippets that they'll leave for us. So I think there'll be a lot to say based on this. I See Fury. Thank you for helping us pass the time. No problem. Honestly, I think it's more for me to help me pass the time. And I want to get hyped for Game of Thrones, right? So I want to talk about it as much as possible. Brandon here, hey Max, excited for the premiere tonight. Give some of your thoughts on what you expect. I told you, I'm new to this live streaming stuff. I'm just rereading posts at this point. Icy spots, good to see you, buddy. Layla, do you think anything big will happen in the first episode? Yeah, like I said, if anything big happens, it would be the Night King destroying the last hearth or some kind of northern stronghold, and that would probably be the biggest thing. And the rest will be kind of small reveals. We'll get a lot of people coming together, being reunited. We'll see Cersei kind of strengthen her force, and yeah, we'll really just see everyone come together and start preparing for that threat. And if the biggest things that we'll see happen in this episode is emotional stuff. You know, we'll see Jon and Arya. We'll see maybe Jon find out that he's Targaryen, and maybe political undertone. You know, Tyrion will be upset that Daenerys is with Jon because it undermines herself politically. It puts her in a vulnerable position. So I think they'll be dealing with some of that. And then when you throw, you know, a giant wrench in it, that Jon is a legitimized Targaryen, and if they find out about that, then the problem there is, you know, now the problem is that Daenerys, you're fighting to be queen, but now you're in love with someone who has a better claim to the throne than you do. And you're also with somebody who in Westeros could be liked more than you. You know, you're seen as a foreign invader. And you killed the Tarleys. You've brought Dothraki overseas. You brought savages. You know what I mean? And Jon Snow, as someone who was a bastard, was Lord Commander, now King of the North. Since he's legitimized, he may have a stronger role there. So it could have a lot of ramifications. And I think if anything in this episode, if they're there, they'll be laid down throughout this episode. Are you wearing a House Beaver sweatshirt? Yes, this is my sigil. It's the Roots. I don't know if this is at anywhere across the world, but yeah, Canada, we wear Roots. I don't know if this is a brand that you can get anywhere else, you know, but for us, they make comfy sweaters. So I love Roots. The programmer of video games. Prediction: Bran becomes the Night King, or he's Brendan Rivers, the previous three-eyed raven before him. So if I were to legitimize a theory on Bran being the Night King, it would kind of go like this. If you look at similarities between Bran and the Night King, I think there's actually a lot. You know, the Night King clearly has some type of green seeing ability. When Bran warged in and saw the Night King and the Night King touched him, it shows that he's operating on another plane, the same kind of plane that Bran is. That suggests that the Night King, he's coming south for a reason, because he knows what's happening. He can see everything. He's just sitting over that wall watching everyone. So he's coming during this time for an actual reason. And on top of that, I always say this in terms of the Army of the Dead. Instead of him just resurrecting the dead, the reason why their eyes turn blue, I think, is because he's warging into them. And I think a lot of things the Night King does, you can see a connection to Bran, or a relation. Maybe that's why the Night King had a fascination with Jon, because way back, the Night King is like, he's familiar, and it's actually his brother. You know what I mean? But the implications that would have on the plot is, I would think, if anything would happen, it would harken back to Hodor. You know, Bran warged into Hodor and messed him up, and Bran realized that he could have an impact on the world from just being under a tree, just like when he called his dad and Ned Stark turned around. I think what could happen is the same thing could happen with the Night King. There could be a position where the Night King is vulnerable, or someone that Bran loves is in a vulnerable position. And this is what I said in my predictions. But Bran could go back in time to the moment the Night King was created and try and interfere with that. Maybe one of his things is he tries to warg into the actual person who is the Night King to get out of the situation or take care of the situation. And when Bran is warged into his subconscious, he's created, which means that makes him go astray. It gives him his own motivations. That's underlined with Bran. It gives him the abilities. And then you're faced with this plot where Bran Stark is the Night King. And I think if you were to introduce that to the story, what it could do is, you know, Bran could be in a coma state. If you kill Bran, maybe the Night King loses his abilities. Maybe the whites start to drop, and maybe that's the way that you could do it. But other than that, I'm not sure. And in terms of the Night King passing the mantle down to another Night King, we haven't. I always look back to history. I look back at the last time he came south, and that was the War for the Dawn, and it's the same actor. So I don't know if that's necessarily true, but really, who knows? Abatu Jacob, can't wait for the first episode. Me too, man. Megan says, hey, how's it going? I See Fury. I think like most first episodes of the season, you'll most likely set a scene. Lots of reunions and first time meetings as well. Totally agree. Marilyn Bentley, hey, how are you? So good to see you. Hey, Max, what's going on? Jorn66, when does it come out? When does what come out? When does the episode come out? Couple hours, bro. David Bass, the wait is almost over. Great channel, BuzzTox. Best of luck. Thank you so much. I can't read your name. Dang, just realized it was April 14th already. I know. I can't believe it. And I made a video a while back predicting on like months and months ago saying when Game of Thrones would come out. And to me, this date makes sense because Game of Thrones released April 17th in the first season. So it would make sense that they would want it to kind of be the Sunday, the second Sunday or whatever to kind of come full circle, which, you know, it's good. Cynthia Johnson, could someone record this episode and put it on YouTube? Yeah, I wish. You'd be copyrighted and banned. That's for sure. No, I'm not going to stream the episode live. And I actually, you know what's funny about that is I remember last year I did a live stream and a lot of people were misled and they thought that I was live streaming the episode. So it like blew up and I was so excited. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm doing so well. So many people want to see me talk. And then the dislikes were crazy because everyone just wanted to see Game of Thrones. So like, okay, good. So that's why I titled it Predictions and Theories, because it kind of hints at just me. You know, you're not going to be getting the live stream. I can't do that anyway. It would shut down everything. And to be honest, like I respect the show. I would encourage anyone to pay for the content or find a way to support the show, even though it's coming to an end, because, you know, I love it so much. I See Fury, Lyanna Mormont ripping Jorah a new one. That's a possibility. Jorah is a character I'm interested to see what happens. You know, he was cured of his grayscale. So my one thing is last season, I feel like they should have started taking care of their characters. Like, you know, it was a time to kill off some of the characters to give more weight to the last season, because I feel like there could have been a lot more happen. Whereas with this season, I feel like there's so many characters now, and I feel like we're going to be faced death after death after death, and it'll be kind of overwhelming. And I think a lot of characters will be pushed to soldier status. Like my one worry is I hope Jorah doesn't just become another person fighter that we follow in an action sequence. You know, I want his character to have a meaning and have a purpose. And the first reason I can guarantee you that in the first couple episodes, when they find out that Cersei has the Golden Company, Jorah is going to be the one who educates, you know, them and the audience about the Golden Company. Jorah will be the one to say that, you know, they're founded by Targaryen bastards. They never break a contract. They this, they that, because he knows about that stuff. He has experience in Essos. So I think that's what he'll offer in terms of counsel. Loranda Phillips, I'm pretty sure I'll cry when I see Jon and Arya together. Me too, man. They're or woman. They both are my favorite characters. Jon's my first favorite character. I think Arya is my second. And seeing them together was a long time coming. I hope that they give it time. I don't want them rushing any of these scenes. So I hope they execute it well. I can almost guarantee you that we're going to see it this time around. After how many hours we will begin episode? Like, will I talk about it? On this channel, I could be totally misunderstanding your question, but after we watch the episode, which is 50 minutes, you'll see a video from me about maybe 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'll be working hard on it just to give my initial reaction. Francisco James, thank you so much for your donation. Really appreciate it. Can't wait to watch your content on the prequel. Thank you so much. The prequel is going to be interesting. I don't know how I feel about it, because you can't really predict it like you can Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones is a different beast. Because with The Long Night, you already know what's going to happen. And the key thing about the Long Night that I don't like is I feel like in order to tell a compelling story this time around, you need to be able to look back at what happened during the Long Night. And we should be seeing Bran going back and looking at the Long Night, seeing what happened in the past. And them announcing that they're doing a Long Night spinoff tells me that they're not going to explore that, which to me doesn't make sense, because that's the first place you'd start. You know, if the Night King is coming south and you want to defeat him, what do? You look at what happened the last time he came south. So I'm a little irritated that they're doing that. Either they're going to spoil it completely, or they're just gonna. I don't even know. I honestly don't know at this point. So I'm irritated that they're doing that. I wish they did a Robert's Rebellion. I would have loved to see that, because we're already familiar with the characters. Oh wow, Cameron David, do you think that Jon will find out in this episode? Hype. He'll find out in this episode or next episode. You know what? I'll just say it. I think he's gonna find out this episode, because that's gonna be his first reaction with Bran. Bran's gonna be like, "You're a Targaryen," and he'll just sit there and tell him, and then Sam will be there to reiterate what Bran is saying. And I don't think that information is going to become public. I think Jon's going to keep that to himself, because he's that kind of guy who's like, I don't want anyone to know, and he'll keep it private because he doesn't want to contend with Daenerys. You know, he loves her at this point. He bent the knee to her, so I think he's going to try and keep it secret. And I think there may be some characters at play that may try and bring it out into the light or exploit it, like Varys. And that could be, you know, the spider, the master of whispers. You know, he may use that knowledge to benefit Jon, which could be the reason why he'll die in Westeros this season. Programmer of games, is Jon the prince that was promised? That's a very loaded question. So it's a very good question. So in terms of what I'll say to that is, I think if I say that Jon is the prince that was promised, it doesn't degrade what Daenerys' role is. It doesn't degrade what Bran's role is. It doesn't degrade what the Hound's role is. I think that every character has a specific and important role to play, right? I think the prince that was promised is one role that is going to be needed during the Long Night. And I think, as I've said before, they always say that the prince that was promised and Azor Ahai, they're interchangeable. I don't think so. And based on that, we have 6 episodes left, and based on how they've set it up so far, a part of me thinks that they're going to handle Azor Ahai and the prince that was promised as the legit savior who'll pull a flaming sword and fight off the Night King. I honestly think that. Based on what they've told us and what I think should happen and what makes sense to happen, is that Azor Ahai isn't the savior. He was the father. Azor Ahai tempered his sword into Nissa Nissa, no pun intended, right? And he pulled a weapon called Lightbringer, which is the flaming sword, but instead of it being a flaming sword, it was a child. It was the child that brought light back to the world, and that child was the weapon that defeated the Night King, based on sacrifice, because that Lightbringer, that child, is the prince that was promised, and the prince that was promised. It was the prince that was promised to the Night King. And I go through that in my video breaking down why the Night King wants the child. But I think it's a good tell on war, the sacrifices that have to be made during war and to make peace. So I think, you know, ideally I would think that Jon is the prince that was promised, because he's both ice and fire. There's no duality with any other character on the show. But at the same time, the prince that was promised, if they do it, would be Jon and Daenerys' kid. If they were gonna get Daenerys full term for 6 episodes, which I find very hard to believe, but they hinted at it a ton last season. Like, it was crazy. She's like, by the way, I can't have children. Did you know I can't have children? Yeah, my dragons are my only children. Like, she beat us over the head with it. Like, it was crazy. So they're almost like foreshadowing it. So if that's the case, then the child of Jon and Daenerys would be the prince that was promised. If that's not the case, then Jon is the prince that was promised. And, you know, and that doesn't degrade Daenerys' role. She is the mother of dragons. And that's the role that they both have to defeat the Night King. Yeah. So that's my answer to that. I see Fury. Bran is like Google. He has to know what to look for. Honestly, that's a pretty good analogy. That's okay. That's a really good analogy. I'll look at that, and I can look at that, and that makes me like the show better. But my thing was, I initially interpreted Bran as somebody who just got downloaded all of this knowledge, and I understand, like Google, you have to figure out how to access it, and I think he's still on that journey trying to figure it out. But yeah, Bran was so disassociated from himself because Bran was just as much of himself as he was his father, as he was his brother, as he was any other person in Westeros, because he knows the story of every single person to the detail of himself. So what defines who you are other than your memories and your experience? And with Bran, that was just polluted with everyone else's. So Bran is no one. He's everyone, right? And that's why he was so depersonalized. Maybe in this season, we'll see him be more like the old Three-Eyed Raven, where he's able to harness it, control it, and maybe find his own sense of self again. But who knows? Brendan Hiera. I found it really confusing how Bran didn't know Jon was legitimized Targaryen. Then Sam told him that he could all of a sudden see the wedding. Yeah, that's like the analogy he made, that Bran is like Google. You know, he heard it and he's like, oh, and then he went back and watched it. But honestly, the way I felt about it, season 6 should have dealt with that. They should have told us that Jon was the child of Lyanna and Rhaegar, and they should have had the reveal that he was legitimized, because I feel like they were kind of double dipping. And my one concern is that, sure, the audience loves it. Jon is a Targaryen. Great. He's legitimized as well. Awesome. But like, Bran as a character, his role is to defeat the Night King. So why is he so hung up on that? I think, first of all, that speaks to Jon's importance and what that means of him being a legitimized Targaryen. But that was the one part that bugged me, when he's like, I have to tell Jon that he's a Sand, that he's a bastard from the South. It's like, that's not important to what your role is. So that's my one issue with Bran and how he was handled. Adil Khan, I missed you, bro. Missed you too, man. Loretta Phillips, what if Jon has to marry Cersei? Oh, I seriously doubt that. If he did, that would be impressive, but I don't think they're at that point right now, and strategically it doesn't make sense. You know, Jon already said that he bent the knee. He did that speech last season when he said, you know, I'm not going to swear an oath I can't uphold. I bent the knee to Daenerys. I support Daenerys. Marrying Cersei at this point doesn't make sense. I think if it would make sense at all, if they found out Jon was a legitimized Targaryen, they may try and bury that information by wedding him to Daenerys. So then Jon becomes a Targaryen, not through his own lineage. They kind of bury that history, and he becomes a Targaryen through Daenerys. And Daenerys is the queen of the north, or the queen of the north. Daenerys is the queen, and Jon would be the king, but really he's the supporter of her. He's not the one that's in power. She would be. So maybe a marriage would be useful for them to kind of snuff out that information. And that would kind of play to Daenerys as well, because Daenerys and Jon, they love each other. That would be great. And obviously it would be a good alliance too. To even though Jon already bent the knee, obviously it's a good alliance to have Daenerys and Jon together, the North fighting with Daenerys to defeat the Night King and to defeat Cersei. Adil Khan, give a link for the video to recap every season before the start of a new season. Oh yeah, if anybody has that, throw that in there so you can kind of catch up. I see Fury. Are you expecting a cold opening? They do cold openings for dramatic effect. If I'm trying to think of what they would do a cold opening of, I don't know if there's anything significant enough to do a cold opening. Because if they did Jon and Daenerys cold opening, it doesn't make sense, because they want to flow that into a scene in Winterfell. You know what I mean? If you're going to do a standalone, it kind of has to stand on its own and kind of wow everyone. Maybe it's Bran looking into the past. Maybe it'll be a cold open of the Long Night. You know what I mean? A flash in the past. But if something is going to happen, it's going to stand on its own, and it's going to be a big reveal, then yes, I expect that. I just don't think we'll see Daenerys and Jon in a cold open, because we're just going to see them arrive, and it's going to be a whole sequence. So I doubt that they'd want to break that up. I don't think we're going to see that with Cersei either. So if it would be a cold open of anything, it would either be Bran looking in the past, or it would be Tormund and Beric and kind of seeing if they survived or not, and it would give us an update on if they're okay. And that would be the two that I would bet on if there was going to be a cold open. Rich will be a blackout for me today until I watch it, but I can't resist watching you, Max. Oh, thank you. Happy GOT day. GOT day. Yeah, no, I'm very excited. I didn't even think about spoilers on social media. I didn't think about that at all. But yeah, I don't know any spoilers, so you're safe here. Mailman, Jon marrying Cersei would be amazing. Boo, I disagree with you. What if Tyrion would marry Cersei? Nope, I doubt that too. I think at this point they already tried to make amends with Cersei. There is no marriage that could fix what's going on right now. There is no time. There's no political moves that they could do. It's going to be just a free-for-all. Daenerys and Jon are going to be in the north. Jaime's going to arrive and say that I came here to help. Cersei doesn't. So there you go. She's bringing the Golden Company. She's conspiring against you guys. And Jaime may hold back some information. But at that point, that's not someone you try and bargain with. That's someone you stop. So I think maybe it'll put Daenerys in a position where she has to take on that Mad Queen mantra. Not saying that she is. But in season 7, she said she's going to the Red Keep and burning, and killing Cersei. And Jon kind of talked her away from it. Maybe she'll be put in a situation where she has to. It makes her look like the bad guy, but it's something that she has to do for the safety of Westeros, because you can't have Cersei conspiring against you when you're facing off with the Night King. So I think they're past the point of settling it with diplomacy and marriage. So that's what I think about that. Lorinda Phillips, we've seen Jon in King's Landing. So I guess you're talking about some maybe leaks. What I would say to that is I don't want to get too much into leaks in this chat. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But the only thing I would say is I would question the legitimacy. It's really easy to have Kit Harington on set to look like Jon is there. But also equally, I think what I would say that we'd see Jon in King's Landing. Same with Daenerys, same with all these other characters, because we know Winterfell is going to fall. And these characters need to go south. And I honestly think the show ends at King's Landing. And I think our characters will be there. So at the end of the day, I think we will see Jon there. We will see Daenerys there. And that'll be a part of the show. Nunya, was a fan since I found you on your Westworld reviews. Excited to see your Game of Thrones reviews and predictions this season. Great. Thank you so much. If you missed out on any of my Game of Thrones prediction videos, go back and watch them. They're I'm still very proud of them. I like them. They're good content. I released a Night King video 2 days ago, so you can check that out as well. So there's still some content you guys can watch if you missed out on that. Dylan P, if you lived in the GOT universe, what house would you most or least likely want to be born into? You know what? I gotta say Stark, because I'm the biggest Stark fan. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Even though it's cold as hell and it sucks being in the north, I'm Canadian anyway, so I'm used to it. So I would 100% take Stark, because I'm Canadian. I'm used to the weather. I love the people. They're great. Yeah, so 100% Stark. Who would I least want to be? I'm trying to get a really insightful answer here. Yeah, probably Lannisters. I wouldn't want to be a Lannister for obvious reasons. I don't know. It's kind of a typical answer. Another house that I would want to be is actually, I was just going to say I wanted to be House Tyrell, but they all got blown to shit. So no, I don't want to be them either. So yeah, Stark, and I wouldn't want to be Lannister. I think that's a pretty typical answer. Melman, Cersei may be the smartest person alive that actually knows how to play the game. Cersei's doing well in the last season, and I think that surprised Tyrion, because usually she wasn't. She still does. She operates on impulse, and I think that would, if she's gonna die, or I think she will. Well, she will. She's the Valonqar prophecy. She's gonna die. I'm gonna stop beating around the bush. She's gonna die. I think it's gonna be because of her emotions. She'll be in an emotional state that's going to make her do irrational things, and that's just Cersei. That's what she's always done. But I think she's really pulling herself back, and she's doing a good job, you know, with the battle strategy. She's handled it great. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I wouldn't say that she's the smartest character. I would just say that she's learned a lot and she's doing great. But I think at the end of the day, her emotions are going to get the better. Cameron David, I'm so excited to see how everyone in the episode reacts to the news about Jon. It's going to be crazy. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the news even gets out, because I honestly think the first reaction, like Bran and Sam are going to tell Jon, hey, you're Targaryen. And Jon's going to go, oh, and then he's going to go down in the crypts of Winterfell. He's going to sulk and stare at Ned Stark for a bit and be like, oh, you're not my father. And then he's going to go and stare at the weirwood tree for a bit and sulk a little more. And he's just going to keep it to himself. And I think that that's how it's going to happen. And then a part of the underlying story is going to be how that gets out and how that's important. Because Jon being a legitimized Targaryen, he may have to take that mantle to get the Golden Company to side with them. To get two Targaryens, Daenerys and Jon, to get the Golden Company on their side. And I think he'll eventually tell Daenerys. And I think Daenerys, you know, even though it will hurt, I think she will maybe introduce him to Rhaegar, you know, saying like, I trust myself flying Drogon and I trust you. I can't afford to lose one of my children again. Take care of Rhaegar. Because she doesn't want to have her dragons fly unmanned. Because what happened last time is it got killed, right? Viserion got killed. So she's probably going to get Jon on that dragon as soon as possible when she finds out he's Targaryen. Because there's comfort in that, knowing that Jon is taking care of her child, essentially. Rachel Webb, thank you so much for the donation. Really appreciate it. Always great content. Thank you so much. It's very nice. Nunya, you're Canadian too. Wicked. Peace from a fellow Canuck. Awesome. Raiders of the North, Charles McBride. We are the North. Yes, we are. Lorinda Phillips. Jon don't like to brag. I don't think they will tell it first episode. I think Jon will know. I just don't think he'll go around speaking it. Heron Rossi, what do you think of Craster's ice blue eyes? It's been so long. I didn't realize he had ice blue eyes. You know, I honestly think it was the actor. I think in that case, I wouldn't go theory digging too much on that. With his blue eyes, I just think that was the actor. I think if you want to look more at Craster and what that means, I would look at, you know, the history of where his family originated from, what their bloodline is, and see why the Night King was taking their babies. Other than his eyes, I don't really think that really feeds into any theory crafting. I doubt the producers of the show were like, make his eyes blue. I don't think that has any implications, but it's a good thing. I've noticed comments about it talking about it. So who knows? I could be wrong. It could have some significance to the plot, but I doubt it a little bit. Spark Daddy, do you think it's possible, if the Nissa prophecy is realized on the show, that Melisandre could be her? I don't think so. Reason is because, like, Nissa was essentially, in history and lore, she was the sacrifice. A couple things backing that theory is Melisandre says she's going to die in Westeros, which is good. But I don't think that speaks to her story. I think that when you look at characters and you try and predict where they're going to end up, you have to look at the previous plot to see how that, you know, opens up and how that relates to the plot, you know. With Melisandre, really, it was really understanding herself. It was the growth of putting her faith in one person and that whole thing shattering. And she, in season 7, you see, like, she learned she doesn't want to be so in the face and force prophecy. She realized that she's not that significant. All she can do is sit back and try and make the chess pieces move. You can't force things to happen. And she realized that quick with Stannis. And now she's afraid to even mention that she thinks Jon is Azor Ahai or the savior, because she's afraid she's going to mess it up. She brought ice and fire together, Daenerys and Jon, and now she just wants to sit back and see what happens, because she knows that the prophecy will play out itself. She just has to give it a nudge. So in terms of her, I think if anything, what Melisandre's significance is, I don't think it's sacrifice in that sense, because to me, Nisa's comes from a role of like love but betrayal, and I think you can only really get that from Daenerys and Jon. I think with her, if she were to die, it would be death can pay for life. It would be a sacrifice. This may be the season we see a kiss of life, and if we see Melisandre die, I think it would be a sacrifice to try and bring somebody back to life who she thinks is meant to fulfill the prophecy. One thing that I was going to say in my predictions, I didn't release episode 5 and episode 6, but basically what I thought was going to happen was Daenerys would come to a position where she had the baby, right? She had her and Jon's baby, but it was born dead. You know, it was maybe premature. Maybe it was forced out of her by the Night King. Who knows? But in that position, I see Melisandre giving the kiss of life to their baby to keep it alive. And you can look at that any way you want. I just think there's going to be a character that she's going to give a kiss of life to that's going to push the story forward. I just think that's her role. That's what I always thought. So, you know, I could be wrong, but in terms of her seeing Nisa, I don't necessarily see it. So if you have any more points, throw them in there. I'll read them. Anything digital. Friend and I are having a debate. If a human has killed a human, it's not tied to the Night King's army because no White Walker had control of that death, i.e. Rickon, Wan. Yes or no? Yeah, no, it's if you're dead, you're resurrected. Period. That's the way I see it. And I think I think we've seen that in the show. I don't think dead is dead. You know what I mean? There's nothing that killing somebody with one sword versus another sword changes anything. I think his ability is resurrecting the dead through warging or through whatever. I don't think it matters how it's done. And I think we've seen. I can't off the top of my head. I can't think of anything, but I bet you any money that there are examples in the show where people are resurrected who have, you know, died outside of White Walkers or the Night King. What do we got here? Raiders of the North Charles. Where is it here? For 8 episodes, it's got to be all action every episode, right? It's not even 8 episodes, man. Sorry to disappoint. It's only 6. So no, I think the way the layout of the episode is going to be, or the season, we have 6 episodes, right? I think episode 1 and 2 are going to be build up, a lot of plot implications. It's going to be more prophecy oriented. It's going to be more emotional, but you're going to have a lot of like really big high budget scenes. Like you're going to have big shots of things happening, right? Fancy shots. It's going to feel like a movie, right? Episode 3, I think, is going to be the battle for Winterfell. That's going to be a huge action sequence. Probably the majority of the show. That episode is going to be a battle. And I think episode 4 or 5, you're going to see peppered scenes that are more action oriented. Maybe episode 5, I think, is going to be the penultimate. It's going to be the final showdown, I think, between Cersei, between the Night King, between Jon and Daenerys. And then who knows what episode 6 is going to be. You know, it could be an epilogue at the end showing, you know, after a while what happened, or it could be the actual end. So who knows? I see Fury. So the Battle of Winterfell will act as a filtration system for the large number of characters. I think a good part of it, yes. Yeah, I think a fair amount of characters are going to die during the Battle for Winterfell. Who it will be, I'm not sure, but I'm willing to bet there's going to be some significant characters. Like you'd see like a Tormund. Hopefully not, but you might see Tormund die. You'll probably see. There's some characters like the Hound and Beric Dondarrion where those characters throughout the show they've told us that they have significance to the plot. Like there is something that they are meant to do. So one of those characters, we may see them fulfill what they need to do as a character. And maybe the Hound sacrifices himself for Arya. Maybe, you know, Beric Dondarrion resurrects Kiss of Life, resurrects somebody. Maybe not. Maybe he sacrifices himself for somebody, and that was his role all along. Who knows? But I think we're going to see multiple top headline characters die, and it's going to kind of cripple our characters. So I think, and in terms of like headlining characters, I don't know if we'll see like a main character die. Maybe like Arya, but she'll probably live. In terms of main characters, I'm not so sure. We'll just lose a lot of primary, like maybe Brienne of Tarth, just secondary-ish characters. I think we'll see mainly lost in that battle, or like Jorah, things like that. Murph Dog, do you think George R.R. Martin is still giving input on the show? From what I've heard, I think when they started doing the show, George R.R. Martin was like, this is my direction. This is how I see it ending. And then the producers were like, oh, shit, like, how do we get that working? And then they try and like feed everything together to tell the story. So I think at this point, Dan and Dave, the producers of the show, are completely on their own because I think they've almost written their own way on how it's going to get to where George R.R. Martin's ending was. So I don't think he had any input on this because his input was already a while ago, and the producers of the show have been working to George R.R. Martin's conclusion for all this time anyway. An example of that would be in the books, I can guarantee probably Jon isn't going to go capture a white from over the wall. But Dan and Dave needed the Night King to resurrect a dragon. So that's how they did it. So I think that's what we're going to see more. John M. Buzz, there better be some good Night King background this season. Yeah, probably. We're going to see probably a ton of the Night King. In terms of how he's going to be shown, I bet you any money he's not. He's going to be silent. I'm interested to see if they're going to show a motivation on what he wants or what he's here for, or they're just going to play him off as a killing machine. But in order to defeat him, they kind of have to understand his motive, unless they're going to do what Beric said in season 7. When they were standing on the island, they looked at the Night King and said, we kill him, all the other ones die. So maybe they just try and really focus in and try and kill him. But they better not do that. I've seen a theory around that I think is so stupid, that they're going to kill the Night King and defeat the White Walkers in like episode 3, and then the rest of the threat is dealing with Cersei, which I think is just ridiculous. And if that happens, I'm going to be very upset. People keep asking about the time of the episode, when the episode's going to drop. I don't know. All I know is Eastern time, it drops at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to guess that wherever you are, it's going to drop an hour from now. So I don't know. It's just a quick internet search away, but I would bet that that's it. Anything digital. Nah, Max, you didn't have decades on White Walkers, and you nailed it. LOL. I wish I remembered what you were talking about, but thank you. And David Bass. Yes, or David Bass. Yes, they all meet up in Winterfell in the first episode. There we go. Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. You think Tyrion might betray Daenerys? No, I think Tyrion is bound to Daenerys. I think he will always support Daenerys. If anybody would betray Daenerys, it's Varys. In episode 2 of season 7, they had that scene where Varys said that he won't betray her, and Daenerys has her really intelligent moment where she says, if I step out of line or I do anything that you don't like, come and tell me to my face on how I'm failing the people, and we'll go from there, right? But basically, Daenerys told Varys, do not betray her, right? And I think that could be foreshadowing. I think Varys could and probably would, and that would result in his death. And that's why I think Varys isn't the kind of character you see die from White Walkers. He's the kind of character who dies because he got caught in spinning a web. You know what I mean? In this aspect, what I think could happen is, and Varys and Tyrion are friends, and I think that could kind of pit them against each other, where Tyrion will always support Daenerys, but I think Varys finding out information of Jon being a Targaryen, in season 7, he tried to get Tyrion to control Daenerys. And even Cersei gave examples to Tyrion on like what makes Daenerys better than her. And the key thing is that Daenerys surrounds herself by counsel that helps her be better. But I think Varys may see that Jon would be a better candidate for the throne than Daenerys because of his birthright, because of who he is. He was raised by one of the most honorable men, Ned Stark, and he may see Jon as a better candidate. So at that point, Varys could undermine Daenerys, and the way he could do that is making Jon's heritage known. He could do that by getting the Golden Company to support Jon over Daenerys, which gives Jon a giant army. Just a way that's out of Jon's control, that forces Jon into being a leader or being in that leadership role despite his support for Daenerys. So I think if Varys was going to do anything, it would be that. Finessence 808, do you think we'll see how the Three-Eyed Raven came about? No. As far as the details of what we already know, no. I don't think we're going to see like a backstory or origin story on what happened. I just think we're going to see everything in the present tense, whether it's going to be, Bran just doing his part, which so far hasn't been much, but doing his part in kind of battling the Night King, understanding the Night King, looking in the past, and maybe in the future, if we see him sit under the God's Eye. I always had a theory that the man who sits under the tree at the God's Eye is essentially God. You're surrounded by weirwood trees. You have the power to be God. There's a reason why it's surrounded by water. It's to keep out the dead. And the person who sits under that tree has full control. And they are not only the Three-Eyed Raven, they would be the old gods. They would be the Red God. They would be, the Seven. They would be everything. And everyone would have a different interpretation of these gods that they think overlook them in the skies, but really it's a man who's underground, under a tree, right? But I think that would be an interesting thing to see. Jesse Farnsworth, who's the first person to drink wine in this episode? Oh, Cersei. It's got to be Cersei. She's the only one who drinks wine. So that's my pick, Cersei. Mortzia Kadem, do you think the Night King will use his power to create the White Walker against any of the main characters in the war? Oh, do you think the Night King will make a White Walker out of the main characters? I think it's possible. We know that the Night King can convert. It's predicted that he's converting babies into these White Walkers. It's unknown if he could create another White Walker from an actual adult. If he would do that, maybe it's dragonglass, maybe plunging dragonglass in the heart, much like Benjen. But in Benjen's case, it ended up curing him. So there's some difference between what happened with Benjen and what happened with the Night King. But it's a possibility. I don't know if they're really going to focus on that, but if they do, I think there would be a ritual behind it. Like in my predictions, in episode 3 during the Battle of Winterfell, I had a scene where they put Jon against a weirwood tree, and the Night King came with a piece of dragonglass, which pretty much means that if I think they're going to go that route, it would have like a religious undertone to it. Like the Night King would, it's the weirwood tree. It's where he was born. And now he's picked a candidate to then convert. It's a whole event. The whites surround, and it would be like a kind of that kind of a thing. Tanya Benton. Hi, everyone. Just got home. Oh, a lot of people are joining. What else do we got here? Dylan P. Part of me worries that Littlefinger is still alive, but I don't see where that would fit into the show. What do you think? No, I think Littlefinger's dead. I think they had to kill him because it was the I don't necessarily love how he was handled or how his death was handled, but it represented the Starks coming together and triumphing as a family, and it represented the death of politics on the show and the real threat, fighting the dead. So you're right. There isn't a place for Littlefinger, and that was why he was removed. So I don't think we're going to see Littlefinger again. The only way we would possibly see him is if he's resurrected as a white. And that would be interesting if they did that too. If we see like Hodor, the girl from Hard Home, like all these characters that we've seen, it would be hard for our characters psychologically to fight a character that's somebody that they love. And maybe that's a scene where, you know, maybe there's a reason why in the trailer Arya is so freaked out, right? She seems so confident, like, oh, I'm excited to fight death, everything, right? And then when she's faced against them, she's overwhelmed and scared. And I think we're going to see a scene where somebody might have to fight against their friend or fight against their family because they died and they were resurrected. And I think a lot of the hard thing about the Night King too is not only is he the dead and he's an impossible threat, he's also, not only is he waging war, he's waging like psychological warfare. You know, everything he does, it's meant to mess with people's psyche. So I think, and and you can see that in Hardhome when that girl that you're introduced to in that episode, she looks at all these children and she doesn't want to hurt the children, so she lets herself die. That's another part of the psyche, you know. And I think the next step of that is maybe seeing a Hodor, maybe seeing Summer, the direwolf, you know, seeing things that are the foundation of these characters that they have to then fight. So I hope we see that. I think it would provide a lot of drama to the show. The programmer of video games. There's a theory that Littlefinger, who died, was a faceless man, but I doubt it, because if that's true, wouldn't Littlefinger be dead in the order for somebody? Yeah. So in terms of using Littlefinger's face, I don't think that's it either. I just don't think at this point his face has any use. I don't think Arya would cut it off and use it, because even if she went to Cersei to try and use Littlefinger's face, he's known as someone who betrayed. He was with the Vale. He supported the Starks, right? So Littlefinger's face at this point isn't useful. So I don't think there's any part of Littlefinger that could be useful to this plot. So I think that they're just going to bury it. The death of Littlefinger meant the death of the political games and the Starks banding together. So I think that's what that represented. Tyrion and Sansa thrown at the end. I don't know. Tyrion could be the person to pick up the pieces at the end of the show, to build that better world after losing maybe his two leaders, Jon and Daenerys. Tyrion is a candidate that I could see that. People draw a lot of conclusions to like Sansa being like the Queen Elizabeth, which is a possibility. I see Sansa in Winterfell. Based on Sansa's arc, I don't see her ruling Westeros. And watch me eat my words. I don't see her as that kind of candidate. And to be honest, my true opinion on it is Tyrion is probably always going to be counsel. He's going to be a very important cog in the running of Westeros, and he's going to help build this new world. But I think, and this could be my bias, but based on prophecy, I think it's going to be forced on Jon. Jon has always walked into power. He never had to. He was just himself, and people always elected him. And I think in this system where they break the wheel, it's almost like a medieval democracy. And I think Jon has always chosen to lead the people. And I think Varys will set up a foundation where the people will want to follow Jon. And Jon will begrudgingly be king. He won't want to be king, but I think he'll have to be. To build this new world. And, you know, in prophecy, we see all the time, Melisandre says, you know, the person who is the savior, the person who is, you know, that character, they will be king. And they'll also betray everything they once held dear. So I think there's a huge connection between the person who is a key role in defeating the Night King, is the person who is then king to build that new world. Bran to Sam, I know everything. What are you doing in Winterfell? Instant contradiction. That was so funny. I saw that yesterday, and I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, God, yeah, I think they handled that a bit poorly. Brandon Herrera. I feel like Cersei should have been killed last season. They should have completely shifted their focus on the fight from the dead this season. That's what I thought. I think in my prediction video for season 7, I thought that they would have defeated her because they had to. And you'd see the Red Keep go up. You'd see Jaime strangle Cersei as the Valonqar. And you'd see all those characters dead. And then you'd see everyone else pick up the pieces. And it was funny because I was talking about this to my girlfriend and my friend. And they dropped something interesting as well. Like it probably was meant to go this way because it's the stakes of the show. You have somebody in the south and somebody in the north, and our favorite characters are stuck in the middle, and it's trying to figure out how you find peace to bring all the living together when they refuse to. So basically, there's three different wars raging right now, and it creates a lot of stakes and a lot of drama, right? So I think Cersei's end will be quick, and it will be out of desperation, and I think it will put characters that we've grown to love in very vulnerable positions that make them not necessarily look like the good person. And I think Daenerys is the key in that. You know, we see a dragon fly over Winterfell in Bran's visions. I think it's very likely that Daenerys loses it, and out of the safety of everyone else, she has to storm King's Landing. And maybe Jaime was the first person sent in to try and talk sense into Cersei, and it just wasn't enough. So that's how I think we could see it. Nunya, I'm not happy at how they handled the Greyjoys. And that to me alone was the biggest question marks coming into this season, how they handled the Greyjoys. Yeah, I feel like at this point, they can't spend too much time on Yara being kidnapped and that whole thing. And I don't think they will. I think, you know, last season we saw Theon come to terms with that he's both a Greyjoy and he's both a Stark. And I think Jon gave that advice, and I think he's going to be dealing with that this season. You know, you are a Targaryen and you are a Stark. But I think we've witnessed the origin story of the new Ironborn with Theon. I think Theon, out of all the characters, has truly paid the iron price, and we've seen him come like full circle. And I think, you know, a great thing about his character is that he put his full support behind his sister, because she would be a great ruler. But I think we're gonna get a scene, and this is in my predictions. I think we'll see a moment where Yara is tortured and dead, and she will die. And I think it'll be a really tragic scene for Theon. And I think Theon will have to take the mantle as the king of the Iron Islands, and he won't want to, and he'll feel like he's not equipped to, but he'll have to. So I think that's what would happen with him. In terms of Euron, I'm not sure how they're going to use him. My go-to is, you know, he's the ship guy, right? I feel like they would go straight to White Harbor. I feel like Cersei would be crazy enough to send Euron to block White Harbor, to cut the north of their resources, to stop them from retreating from the Night King, because we know that water is a barrier there. So I think that would be a good strategy, and I think Euron is going to be somebody that they're going to have to defeat quick, and I think Euron is going to be a stepping stone to defeating Queen Cersei. Vegas Brent, they will probably want people to focus on the completely new sequence instead of a raw cold open. Oh, you're talking about having that cold open. Yeah, like I said, I only think it's going to be a handful of scenes if they were going to do a cold open. I'm not sure if they will, but, you know, we'll see what happens. The program of video games. What if the Night King is the one flying to King's Landing? In Bran's vision in season 5 or 6, we see the dragon flying over King's Landing. Yeah, so that was the dragon vision I was talking about 5 minutes ago. I said it was probably Daenerys. Yeah, it could be the Night King, and there's a possibility that it is. I just feel like with the Night King attacking King's Landing, there's not as much emotion tied to it as Daenerys, because it was something that she didn't want to do for so long, and it would almost force her hand. I don't have a doubt that the Night King would come south to King's Landing. I just think that if he does, our characters will be there waiting for him. And maybe they're trying to get ships from King's Landing to go to Dragonstone to be safe. But I think the final battle could very well be at King's Landing. And I think when the Night King arrives on his dragon, I think it would already be destroyed. And that's another thing we forget about. Like, holy hell, we're probably going to see a dragon battle between the Night King on his dragon and Jon and Daenerys on their dragons. Like, that's crazy. Like, we just have to take in how little that they've showed us about this season, and we've never seen that before. They've only showed us the first 3 episodes. They haven't showed us 4, 5, and 6. We haven't seen really anything about Winterfell either. All we know is that it's on fire and people are fighting. That's it. We haven't seen the dragons. We haven't seen anything. So there's going to be a lot at play, and it will be crazy. Matt Dinga 1. Bro, your analysis is great and entertaining as usual. do you just enjoy breaking down these shows, or do you see yourself directing an actual TV show in the future? More of a personal question. In terms of me, I've always enjoyed film and entertainment. I've always been into it. I kind of found my way enjoying like breaking things down with Game of Thrones. You can go back and watch my videos on season 6. I started doing videos on Game of Thrones, and I really liked the show, and I loved giving my opinions on it. And over time, I've just kind of I like doing it. I love doing it. And in terms of writing, I think I think what I do more than anything is writing. Like, I spend so much time writing, looking at things in terms of my theories, looking at plot points and trying to connect them together. And I really like that. In terms of directing or telling a story, I've never really thought of that because it's such a bizarre industry that I don't know how to even get into. But I have been, looking at ways to get in at the industry one way or another. I really enjoy it. But right now I'm just working. I'm a business student. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I have a lot of other things on my plate right now, but that's something that I would love to do, and I like the idea of it. So yeah. Yeah, 2.5 hours from Cube Boy. We're very close to it being launched. But guess what? Hopefully I last. I'm halfway through my water here, but I want to stream until like 8:30. Crap. So we'll see how long I can last here, and we'll see how many questions you guys have for me. Cube Boy asks, do you think Daenerys survives? No, I don't. I think she's going to be one of the main characters that do die. I think based on her arc, like Jon already died and has been resurrected. I think it's a part of Daenerys's like tragic story, she wanted so bad to sit back on her throne that she felt was entitled to her, and she's caught now in a war that she didn't want. I think, yeah, I don't think that she will make it. I'm trying to come up with why. I just think Jon and Daenerys, one of them. It's like what they say in Harry Potter. Neither one lives or the other one survives. I think it's either Daenerys or Jon. One dies, the other survives. And I just think at this point, I don't know if Daenerys is the one. I think she's the kind of character who got her dragons. She fought off well, and she did the best she could at fighting the Night King. But I feel like in the end it'll overwhelm her, and I feel like she won't make it. And do you think Jon will become the Night King? I like the. My one thing though is there's been no hints to even look at the Night King wanting a new Night King. He's the same person from when he was created by the Children of the Forest, so there's no hint there. But in terms of him, yeah, maybe the Night King wants him to be, a Night King, a White Walker, something. That would feed into my theory that Jon is the prince that was promised. He's the prince that was promised to the Night King. I just wonder why he would wait for so long. But I don't think that's Jon's role. What I hope happens, or what I think happens, is Jon is Azor Ahai, Daenerys is Nissa Nissa. They have a child who is the prince that was promised. That is the sacrifice to the Night King. That's everything the Night King wanted. That's the reason why he came south, was for the development of that child. And now he's going to take it. And Jon's role fits perfectly because he's always the bridge between two sides. He's the bridge of ice and fire. He's the bridge of wildlings and the Night's Watch. He's the bridge between Cersei and Daenerys. He's always the connector of people, right? And I think Jon's role is now going to be the connective tissue between the Night King, the dead, and the living. He died before, and now he's resurrected. He's a character of duality, and that's why I think Jon, of all people, would be the character to make peace between the Night King and between the living. And the way he does that, it could be sacrificing the child. It could be one way or another. It could be him becoming a Night King, or be sacrificing himself. At this point, who really knows? I think Bran's been useless so far, but maybe Bran, Sam, and Melisandre can figure that out. But I think that's really Jon's role is making peace. Lucid Horizon says that he says, hi, hey, how's it going? Good to see you. DC D Webster, Rhaegal, not Rhaegar. If I misspoke, sorry. Yeah, I kind of just like poop out words, so I may say some things that I'm just talking too quick, so I don't know. Yeah, I know. Viserys and Rhaegar are Daenerys' brothers. Drogon, Viserion, and Rhaegal are her dragons. Yes. The programmer of video games. Bran's actor says that the Night King isn't him. He could be lying or not. What do you think? I think anything that the actors say in this show, you have to take what they're saying with a grain of salt. You know, they're not meant to say anything that would lead to any conclusion, because that in itself is a spoiler. And there's tons of people who lie about tons of different things. So I wouldn't say that Bran is or isn't the Night King. I gave my theory about it in the chat, if it's possible. But I'm more leaning towards him maybe just being an aid or a help. But I don't know. We'll see. Margaret, thank you so much for the donation. Very nice of you. BW, are you doing a post-episode live stream or working on a full YouTube video for the episode? Yeah, like I said in the beginning of the live stream, I'm going to have a video up, a reaction and review. I'm going to watch it immediately and then make a professional video that is edited together. It'll be up around 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. That way, the reason why I do that versus a live stream is this isn't as formal. I'd like to get a professional, well-done video out there so everyone can see it and it can be shared and, you know, enjoyed day after day after day. The programmer of video games. BuzzTox, do you think Ilaria is coming back in season 8? She was last seen locked up in Cersei's dungeon. Yeah, I think she's gone. I think they ended it great, you know, hinting at the tragic way that her daughter died and how she's just going to sit there and decay and watch that happen. So I think she's done. I think they addressed that. I don't think it matters. I don't think they're going to waste any screen time on her because her plot is done. So, and the reason why I know that is because there's no... Bringing Ilaria back into it doesn't prove anything other than how ruthless Cersei is, and that's already been proven. So I think they're just that part is over. So we'll see. Josh Friend, can the mountain be resurrected then? I would say the mountain is already some kind of form of dead. I don't know. The mountain is one of those characters that I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna see with the mountain. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't see him as a significant character enough to even care. I don't back Clegane Bowl because I think it's kind of cheesy and kind of forced. That's my opinion on it. And kind of fan fiction-y. I don't even think he's significant enough. Do I think he'd be resurrected? No. Do I think we'd see him resurrected? No. I just think he's a character that will fight and then maybe die somehow. But yeah, that just kind of shows how I think about him. I don't really see him as that significant, but you know, I could be wrong. They should have burned a few bodies in the Battle of the Bastards. Yeah, they should have. We'll see how that even plays out. Like, I know that there's a lot of myth and lore around the crypts of Winterfell and people being resurrected from there. So that is a very interesting concept. Imagine if bodies from the crypts of Winterfell and their earliest ancestors are, you know, rising from the dead, but there could be something in there that keeps them in their tombs, and that would be established throughout the history, right? And the culture that has been established. Eyes Wide Shut. Man, I haven't seen you in a long time. Well, yeah, I haven't seen you either in a long time either, so I'm glad you're in the live stream. Hot Pie is Azor Ahai. Don't kill Hot Pie. Yeah, Hot Pie, you know, I'd be shocked if we saw him, but I think he's gone. Hot Pie. I don't know if we're going to see Hot Pie this season. If the original interpretation of Azor Ahai prophecy is true, could Beric bring Daenerys back? Yes, that is very possible. I would be really interested to see that, actually. I really like seeing parallels between Jon and Daenerys' character, and the two of them have a lot of parallels. You see that in like episode 3 when Daenerys reads off all her titles. She freed the slaves. She brought Dothraki overseas for the first time. She did this and this and this. But then Jon brought peace to the wildlings. He did this and this and this. And there's a lot of similarities between the two characters. That's why in the past, like in season 7, in my opinion, Benjen shouldn't have saved Jon. That is the worst. It should have been Rhaegal. Jon should have closed his eyes like Daenerys when she first, in season 5, when she summons Drogon to come save her and she rides him for the first time. Jon should have done that, and that should have saved him from the White Walkers. But in terms of Daenerys dying, sure. I'd love to see a parallel between Daenerys dying and resurrecting, because it puts them more at an equal playing field and leaves you kind of like, well, what's next? Do I think they'll do it? No, because I think it was already done. And I think Daenerys has already been reborn. She was reborn in the fire with her dragons. Jon was reborn when he was killed and brought back to life. So I think that part of her story is over. But I like the idea. Oh no, in the UK, it's 2 a.m. So you telling me they're airing Game of Thrones at 2 in the morning, or are they going to hold off till tomorrow? I have no idea. Jeez, if it's at 2 in the morning, then I feel sorry for you. Wait, actually, I think it is. I know some people who are in New Zealand, like Mark. I do live streams with him. I think he watches Game of Thrones at a different time as well. So yeah, I don't know. You might have to stay up really late tonight. What do we got here? Lamine Gui, what role do you think Euron Greyjoy will have in this season? I think he's going to be kind of brought down to a foot soldier. I think he's just going to do what he's told. I don't think he's going to do anything significant. I think he's just going to represent Cersei and her interests, and he's going to do what she says. He brought the Golden Company. I think if I always had the battle strategy of, if I was Cersei and I was, angry and frustrated and wanted to end my enemy sooner, I would send Euron and all of his ships to White Harbor. For those of you who don't know, that's kind of the North's bay. That's where they get all their boats. That's how they get their resources. That's how they do their trade. I would send Euron there, burn up everything, take all their resources, and hold White Harbor. So when you have Jon, Daenerys, and all these characters retreating after the battle for Winterfell, after it's been destroyed, they have nowhere to go. So if Daenerys decides to go north and bring the Golden Company there to surprise them, she'll use her White Harbor. If she decides to shut down White Harbor for strategical purposes, Euron Greyjoy will be there. Outside of that, Euron Greyjoy's story, I think, is going to be held to him and Yara, him holding Yara hostage, and he's going to be an obstacle for Theon to overcome. So I think that's going to be his role. Gazelle Pendini, do you think the Night King is coming for the prince or princess that was promised, the baby from Ice and Fire? Yeah, so as I said it in my video, I think the video I most recently dropped, how the Night King will be defeated, that is kind of what I think will happen, or what I want to happen, or what to me makes sense. What's frustrating is when you look at the show and it's 6 episodes long and you've seen what the producers of the show have done, there's a fine line between what I think they're going to do and what I think should and would happen if George R. R. Martin was writing it. I think that would be the perfect wrap if they had to sacrifice a child to the Night King. It kind of speaks to war and what you lose and how brutal it is, and it speaks to all of that. But I also think, that being said, we're following this story for a reason. There's a reason why we're watching Daenerys with her dragons. There's a reason we're watching Jon be resurrected and be king of the North. There's a reason why we're watching this point in Game of Thrones history and not any other part. And I think that could be because this is the time where they defeat the Night King. And that is probably the most likely scenario. Or maybe, yeah, there'll be characters that end up surviving him like they did last time. So yeah. Alpha Maison 8406. Does Sam and Bran tell Jon he's Targaryen in episode 1? Yeah, I ran over that. I think so. Yeah, I think that's the natural thing that would happen, right? Like somebody comes, be like, "Oh, it's so good to see you, Sam." "Oh, good to see you, Jon. I got something to tell you." Like it's something that they would say immediately. I think, yeah, there's going to be a scene where Jon is with Bran and Sam in private. He is 100% in private. They tell him secretly, and then the implications moving forward from episode 1 and during episode 1 is, how does Jon deal with this secret? Who does he tell? Who can he trust? Or he might just want to bury it because he doesn't want that burden. But it's such a pivotal part of who he is. So I think that's what it's going to be. We're going to see Jon find out, but then it's going to be like, oh, he's going to go in like a midlife crisis. We're going to see him stand by the weirwood tree. We're going to see him go down in the crypts and watch his dad and look at Lyanna and kind of go through that in his head. But I don't think it'll be public knowledge. Programmer of video games. I think it would be poetic if Cersei dies giving birth to her child, and if that child was a dwarf like Tyrion. Yeah, that would be very interesting. My thing with Cersei giving birth and actually having a child is, first of all, the backbone on how to defeat the Night King. My theory is based on Daenerys having a child, or Jon being the child. But the problem with that is, good luck trying to convey a full term pregnancy in 6 episodes. That's hard. Same thing with Cersei. In terms of Cersei, based on prophecy saying gold will be their crowns, gold their shrouds, and since Cersei already said that she had Robert's child and lost him as a miscarriage in season 1, I doubt that she will have this baby. And yeah, I just don't think it makes any sense. I think she's going to have some type of miscarriage, and I think that's just going to leave her empty, and it's going to push her forward to like the Mad Queen status, because she doesn't have Jaime anymore. She doesn't have any love or anticipation or protection for anybody. She doesn't care anymore. So she's going to do simply whatever she needs to do to get back out of her enemies, out of spite, right? So I think that's going to be the one thing. Her baby's the one thing that she's holding on to. And when that's taken away, I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to deal with her. Zach Feltner, will we see the Crypts of Winterfell today? Yes. I think we're going to see a lot of imagery that's tied to season 1, episode 1. We see Bran climb up on the castle of Winterfell, and he looks down at Robert and Cersei and all their force. He watches the king come to Winterfell for the first time in many, many years. And I think it's going to be shot the same way. It's going to be the same kind of thing. Even in the trailer, we see a kid like on a tree looking, and that's kind of reminiscent of Bran. And it's the new generation, and it's during different historical times. So I think we're going to see a lot of imagery tied between season 1 and season 8, when Jon and Daenerys arrive to Winterfell, and it's just going to be a reminder of, oh my God, so much has changed, so much has happened. Last time we saw all the Stark children lined up to meet the king, but now all these kids that we grew up knowing are the kings, they are the queens, they are the people in power. So I think it's going to be very shocking for a lot of people, and I think much like how Robert immediately spoke to Ned and went down in the crypts of Winterfell, I think we're going to see Jon do something similar. He'll come, he'll see Arya, he'll see those people, and I think one of his key places he'll go is the crypts of Winterfell. I think there'll be times where he goes alone, and I think there's going to be a time where Daenerys goes down with him. I think we see that in the trailer, and I also spoke about that in my prediction video. I think it's a must that Jon will take Daenerys down there and go through his family and what that means to him and all that stuff, right? Megan Marjorie, I'm so fascinated by you. Yeah, thank you, babe. That's my girlfriend, for those of you who don't know. She's very fond of me, fortunately. So that's nice. What else do we got here? What is your prediction for the very first scene, cold opening? Yeah, I already talked about that, so just rewind. Cold opening would either be the Night King, it would either be Jon. It would either be Beric Dondarrion and Tormund surviving and seeing how they they survived or seeing their circumstance of how they escaped, or it would be Bran looking into the past. Those are the only three ways I would think we would see a cold open. Otherwise, it's going to start with Jon and Daenerys arriving at Winterfell. That's what I think. I think you can't follow it up with anything else. I think they established and they ended season 6 with Jon and Daenerys heading there, and I think we're going to jump right in to them arriving at Winterfell. And I think there's going to be a lot going on there. I think Winterfell is going to take up the majority of this episode, a huge portion of this episode. And there's still a lot of people to come. Like on top of Jon and Daenerys arriving, there's Jaime. Jaime has to arrive. Beric Dondarrion, and Tormund, they have to arrive. So there's a lot of different people who have to arrive at Winterfell, and probably the people of Winterfell as well, right? Sansa said that they were taking food from all the other areas in the north because during a conflict, all the people from like the Last Hearth and I can't even think of any other places, but all the main areas or castles in Winterfell, they're all going to retreat to Winterfell. So I think we're also going to see Lyanna Mormont. We're going to see the Mormonts retreat there. We're going to see all these different houses. Lord Glover. We're going to see the Hornwoods. We're going to see everyone retreat to Winterfell. And I think over the course of 2 episodes, we're going to see all that happen. Cameron David, plot twist, Ed Sheeran is the Night King. Man, I can't believe Ed Sheeran was in the show. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Yeah, good theory. QA, will ice be reforged by Gendry to defeat the Night King? No. I think ice is gone. It was reforged into Widow's Wail and another sword. Yeah, I think that sword is gone. I think the key sword of importance is Longclaw. You know, on top of Jon's sword, Longclaw, you have to look at Heartsbane, which I think Sam is going to give to Jorah, because they had that moment together. Sam cured him. Sam lost all of his family, and he's not a fighter, so I think he's going to give Jorah his sword, and that's going to be Jorah's. You know, that's what he's going to use to fight off White Walkers. So that's what I think. I think Gendry's role is he's going to be blacksmithing. He's going to be using building dragonglass weapons. Maybe he can learn Valyrian steel. If he has enough time to do that, I'm not sure. Other than that, Gendry will be a fighter. He'll be a part of, just the battle. It'll be interesting to see him and Arya together too, because we forget, like, it was so long ago, but they had a great relationship to the point where Arya considered Gendry family. So I think there's that. And then also I think by the end of the show, if Gendry doesn't die, he's going to take that Baratheon mantle, right? So yeah, we'll see. Do you know, besides HBO, where we can watch tonight, online live stream, anything? Yeah, that's not a question for me. I don't know. I would always just encourage you to, watch the show. You can get HBO, what's it called? Like HBO Live. You can stream it from there. Other than that, yeah, I'm honestly not sure. Shifty, I'm actually worried that the last 4 episodes will be boring if the Night King story ends in episode 3. It cannot end in episode 3. That to me, I'm just going to shut it down. There's no way. Obviously, it makes me nervous, but I don't think there's even a possibility that the Night King would end in episode 3. There's too much lore behind it. There's too much anticipation behind it. That will not happen. I think he's going to destroy Winterfell, and people are going to retreat, right? Megan, take a shot. Every time the thing falls off my glass. Nice. Very true. Shifty, the bearded Night King in the cave isn't a hint. That's actually, honestly, that's a pretty good find there. When Jon takes Daenerys into the cave, you look at the White Walkers, and it seems like the Night King has a big beard, which could dictate that it's a different Night King, or it's a different figure, or it's a different, something, right? And that hints at the Night King being different people in a mantle that's taken upon someone. So that's really interesting. Will Cersei become the Night Queen? No, I don't think so. you say that Jon and Daenerys' child may be the prince that was promised, but if it is the case, what would the Night King do with the kid? Just turn him into a White Walker? Yeah. So in terms of that, it seems like that would be the case, and it seems like that might be a deal that brings peace between the two sides. I think I like to think that the Night King isn't just a weapon. He belongs to the species of White Walkers, and that being said, he wants the best for his people. Um, they can't reproduce. It's hard for them to do that, but they have this amazing power. And I think, in order for they're having this war, and a contingency was made saying, like, look, in order to keep peace between our sides, I take one of your people that represent you, and I am able to take him and build up my civilization, fortify my people, and also it's just what war represents, right? It's a sacrifice in order to keep the peace. So I'm not sure. I don't have all the answers, but I think that it's leaning in that direction, because I don't buy into the Night King being defeated in the War for the Dawn. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you're telling me that this guy stabbed his wife and pulled out a flaming sword, and based on all the army we've seen from the Night King, you're telling me that this guy got in a room with the Night King and fought him off and said, "Get away, you," and the Night King retreated north, and they didn't have dragons? No, I don't buy it. That's why there has to be something else at play, because it just doesn't make sense. Da, 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 da. Yo, Buzz, do you try and interact with the other YouTube, the Song of Ice and Fire community at all? I think you would fit in great with them. Yeah, it's good hearing that, but no, I don't. And the season's going to end soon, so I think I missed the boat on that one, unfortunately. Yeah, I never really got into any collaborating. I collaborated with Mark from Enchantment of Eternity. He's just a friend. And other than that, no, I haven't. But I think I kind of missed the boat on that one. So, yeah, thanks. Shifty. They could have let Clegane go, but for the Hound double down on the future fight last season. Yeah, it seemed like they wanted to kill Benjen. LOL. Yeah, exactly. That's how I felt about Benjen. I honestly feel like they just were like, okay, we have this guy who we've been putting off for season after season, and we know that he is in, what's it called? We know that he's in the north, so let's use him. So I feel like they just kind of used Benjen, and they didn't have to. I feel like he would have been more useful. I don't know. They could have introduced him earlier. But in terms of yeah, that I'm not sure. To be honest with you guys, I've been streaming for a while and I want to keep this going, but I think I've never had to go to the bathroom this bad in my life. So I may have to run for 2 seconds just to quickly go to the bathroom. Right now, I'm looking for something I could play to keep you guys, entertained, something like that. But yeah, to be honest with you, I have to pee immensely. So what I'll do, I'll play this, enjoy it. I'll be right back. And if anybody comes, let them know that I'm gone. I'll be gone for about 2 seconds. I'll be quick. good. All right, sorry guys. Boom, cut the music. We're good to go. All right, round 2. I can go for a lot longer now. Sorry about that. Okay, where were we? I'm like so far behind on the question, so please be patient. And let me just look at the time. So 7:36. What time are we watching the show? Show starts in about an hour and a half. I could stream to maybe like 8:15. Well, 8:15 Eastern. So for about another 45 minutes, and then after I got to set up the episode because it's gonna be a big episode. I'm so excited. And in a bit, I want to hear from you guys too. I want to hear all about, what you guys think is going to happen this episode. It's not just about me. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, and I can tell you how good or bad I think those thoughts are. And nobody can answer. I can just give my opinion. So that's good. All right, where are we now? Just reading through everything. Why does the Night King never speak? I think a part of it, that's the programmer of video games. I think a part of the reason why the Night King never speaks is because it gives him power. And this isn't me talking about the show. This is me talking about like not the character. It's me talking about the producers of the show. Just visually, when you're watching a character that doesn't speak, it gives them a lot of mystery and a lot of power and a lot of it just builds a lot of mystery in the character. So I think a lot of it was a creative choice. Because could you imagine the Night King showing up being like, hey, you, like, da 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 da. It kind of degrades what the character is, and it takes away the mystery of what he's after. So I kind of like that he doesn't speak. And if he spoke, maybe it would be like the shards of ice that you hear. I think that George R. R. Martin describes in his books. And also the sound that we see in season 1. Please let Tormund survive, by the way. Tormund is one of my favorite characters. What I found, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, is that my favorite character is Jon Snow. He is my all-time favorite character. And it's not like I just jumped on the Jon bandwagon. Like, literally, when I started Game of Thrones season 1, literally in episode 1, without knowing, I didn't read the books at the time. I saw Jon in season 1, episode 1, and I was like, I like that guy. And I think I've had like kind of a crush on him ever since. So, and I find that when you like a character, I was so enthralled with Jon's story through season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that all the characters that surrounded him became my favorite characters. Like Tormund is one of my favorite characters. Sam is one of my favorite characters. And it's just because I love Jon so much that I love his scenes and the characters that interact with him. I just love those characters. So in terms of Tormund, I hope he survives. There's a very strong possibility that he will die. But the one thing that's letting me believe that he will stay alive, is that he is the only face to the wildlings. Which means that, I think it would be a good story if we saw a wildling who was over the wall and has to, after the fight for the White Walkers, has to rebuild his life in the South with rule. And I think it would be cool if we saw almost a new house, like the Giant's Bane house, where Tormund grew up wanting free folk. He doesn't believe in that stuff, but he almost has to. And then you have a new family that originated from a wildling from over the wall. I just think there's a lot of unique plot opportunities that they could do with Tormund living. But that being said, yeah, it is possible that he dies. Yeah, a lot of people. You guys are really confused about the start times, eh? Jeez. And the tough part is I have no answer to give you there, so sorry about that. What else do we got here? Vlad Riot, BuzzTox. Do you think the Night King is the dead son of Cersei and Robert? No. No, I don't. I'd be interested in hearing more about that theory. I just don't think it holds any lot. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't really know what to add to that. I don't really agree, and I don't really see how that fits into the plot. Which reunion do we think we'll see in episode 1? I think we'll see a lot of them. I think we'll see, well, first of all, we know Jon, Daenerys, the Hound. We have Brienne. We have a lot of characters that are traveling by boat together to Winterfell. Even just Arya alone. Arya is going to see Gendry. Arya is going to see Jon. Arya is going to see the Hound. And first of all, Gendry and Arya had a huge relationship to the point where she thought they were family. Jon is obviously, it's been something we've wanted to see forever because Jon gave her needle. They were very close, and we've been anticipating that. But I'm almost just as excited, or the same amount of excitement, to see her unite with the Hound. I think they developed a great father-daughter relationship, and even in season 7, when Bran and the Hound are talking about Arya, he seems like a proud dad. You know what I mean? He cares about her and he's asking about her, and I would love to see those two characters come together as well. But that's literally one character alone. Arya is going to see 3 significant characters that are going to come together. We're going to see everyone in the North meet Daenerys for the first time, and Sansa has a lot of negative opinions about her, and she's afraid about sacrificing or giving the North to her, and she doesn't trust Jon's judgment. So that's a part 2. But there's so many combinations that we're gonna see that are just, yeah, unbelievable. Tyrion's gonna see Sansa. They were married once. Jon's gonna see Sam, right? Jon's gonna see Bran. Jon's gonna see Arya. So the list goes on, and I'm excited for Jon to see Sam because they haven't seen each other in a while, right? So there's a lot of a lot of reunions that we're going to see for sure. Carlos C, maybe we don't see King's Landing this episode. I think we will. I think we won't see King's Landing in episode 3. I think that's a guarantee. I think it's going to be completely centered around Winterfell. This episode, though, I think there's 2 episodes that we're going to establish Cersei and the Golden Company. And I think we are going to see, we're going to see a lot of developments in Winterfell. We're going to see Cersei welcome the Golden Company. And we're going to see her fortify her plan. We're going to see her build more Scorpion ballistas. We're going to see her question, and this is in the 2 episodes, but we may see her look into wildfire. We may see her look into, the Golden Company and developing a strategy with Euron, Harry Strickland, and her Lannister force, right? So I think that's what we would see with King's Landing, and I think we're going to see King's Landing this episode. Do you think it will be awkward between Bran and Jaime Lannister? It might come up, it might not. Bran is so disassociated with himself at this point that I don't even think he'll bring it up. I think to Bran, it's just like, yeah, he did that, and now I'm the 3-eyed raven. So he's disconnected from that. Jaime might feel a little weird about it, and I think he's going to feel weird about many things because he's the enemy to a lot of people who's in Winterfell. And I think there's going to be a discussion. I think Brienne is going to be there to back Jaime up. I think Tyrion is going to be there to back Jaime up. I think there's going to be there's going to be some people in Jaime's court, and it's going to, win the graces of Jon and Daenerys, and they're going to decide that Jaime is going to stay. So I think that's how that'll go. Whether that comes out that Jaime pushed Bran off the tower, I'm honestly not sure. It's like a 50-50 chance at this point. Gendry will forge a Valyrian steel hook for Jaime. Possible. Honestly, he won't, but it would be sick if he did that. Yeah, Jaime has Joffrey's sword, Widow's Wail. And then Brienne has the other one, Oathkeeper, right. Nail Artson asks, where am I from? I'm Canada. I'm from Canada. I live in Toronto. So yeah, I'm very Canadian. Been here my whole life. I think the beaver sweater kind of gives it away. But yes, I'm a Canadian kid. I see Fury. Will Bronn be up north, or will he stay with Cersei? Yes, I know about Jerome Lena conflict. Okay. In terms of him, I don't know. I think they handled that really weird. I thought if Jamie was going to head south, he would have at least told, or north, sorry, he would have at least told Bronn, like, hey, pack up your things, we're going to the north. But now we just left Bronn behind. So Jon, or what am I saying? So Bronn, I don't know. What's going to happen to him is one of two things. Either he decides to pick up and leave and join Jamie, which to me would be weird and kind of counterintuitive because he would have just left with Jamie in season 7. He'll either fight with Cersei, which at this point doesn't make any sense because he has friendships with Jamie and with Tyrion, and they are now both fighting the dead. But maybe he's still holding out for his castle. But another thing is, Cersei would probably punish him and kill him. You know, he might be a scene in episode 1 or 2 where Cersei realizes Bronn is alone, Jamie's gone, and she knows that Bronn betrayed them because he brought Tyrion. That's one thing. Bronn, in Cersei's mind, brought Tyrion and Jamie together to discuss, right? And in her mind, Jamie left. She likes to put blame on people. She'll probably blame Bronn for bringing Tyrion and Jamie together. And because Jamie left without letting Bronn know, Cersei's probably now going to kill him. So that's another thing too. So I think Bronn will either just be killed, or there will be some conflict between Cersei and Daenerys and those two wars where Bronn will end up switching allegiances. But that's what I would think with Bronn. Yeah, like Carlos thinks that Bronn will stay with Cersei. You know, that's a possibility as well. Jay, could Euron be the Valonqar that kills Cersei? He's the younger brother, doesn't have to meet Jamie or Tyrion. I know. It could be him, but in my opinion, Cersei's such a significant character, and you need the storyline to come to an end. And for Euron to kill Cersei, it doesn't have those stakes. There's a reason. I think there's a reason why they didn't put that prophecy, the Valonqar part, in this show, and I think it's because they didn't want people speculating about Jamie. I think it's what people say all the time, but I think it's the most poetic and it makes the most sense. It makes sense for Jamie to kill Cersei because they shared a womb. They were in love. They had this huge relationship. It brings both of their stories full circle. So I think there's no interpretation that would kill Cersei or make as much sense as Jamie does, just because it's so much for those characters. So that's what I think. Vlad Riot, the real Night King, which you see on the wall, is hidden in the Winterfell from the last war. I don't know. My opinion on that is we haven't seen any plot to really hint at that. So I'm naturally just going to say I don't think that's the case because there's no evidence to even remotely say that, right? It's just a theory, right? Which is a good theory, but it's not backed up by any fact. D. Webster, Night King is just misunderstood. He is trying to go south to get out of the cold. He wants a tan and wants Dornish wine. Hey, you know, I can relate to that as being a Canadian. You know, the things I would do for a sunny day and to get a tan, you know, it's so cold here. So I can actually relate to that more than any other situation. So yeah, good theory. What else we got here? Cersei is bereft because the red keeps sellers have run out of armor gold and she's stuck drinking Dornish red. Hey, that's also true. We see her drinking wine in the Great Hall and she looks very upset. So yeah, I think she's going to be going through some stuff. She's going to be alone, and I think she's going to be pulling out more of that wine. So I think that's what Cersei's going to be doing in this episode. People are still wondering when the episode releases. I have no idea. Yeah, Lando. In the trailer, when Arya is like freaking out and is running, he asks if Arya, or wonders if Arya is running from an old friend. And I think that's honestly the possibility. I think last season we saw Arya kind of like hardened and she was a little bit weird. I think this season, because Jon comes back, we'll kind of see her come full circle and be more of herself. Yeah, she acts all tough, but then when it comes down to it, she's terrified, and that just shows the gravity of the White Walkers. And I think there will be a scene. There has to be a scene where we see a character that we know face off against somebody that they love. And I think with Arya, I totally believe that, because you don't want to fight them, so you run, and it's terrifying, and it's all these things, right? So I think that would be an important thing to see. I think Jon will find out that his true parents in this episode. Can't wait to watch the scene as it takes place in the Great Hall. Awesome. Yeah, so in terms of, I think it'll be like just like how Bran spoke to Sam by the fire in like his own headquarters. I think the same thing is going to happen. I think they're going to say, we need to talk to you. They're going to pull him aside away from anyone else, because they don't want, they want to keep it just to Jon at this time. And they're going to tell him the news. And I think we're going to see Jon kind of struggle with that throughout this episode. Soar low. Who do you love more, Megan or Jon Snow? That's really funny. She jokes with me because I sound like I have a total man crush on him, and like I do, but I gotta say Megan. I have to, right? I do. Wheezy Squeeze Box, Tormund and Brienne. It's funny. There's some people saying Tormund and Brienne now, but a lot of people are like, Jaime and Brienne, will that happen? Which I don't. But Tormund and Brienne, maybe. I felt like it was more of a joke, so I'd be interested it would be really interesting if Brienne took Tormund seriously. But we'll see what happens. I did say I'd find it interesting if Tormund settled down in Westeros and was like the wildling who kind of grew a family with a castle south of the Wall. I thought that would be interesting. And you know what? What's funny though, actually? It's kind of coming full circle. It would make sense that Tormund would want to stay there, because the wildlings' whole thing is that they want the freedom to be able to choose their own leader. That's their whole mantra. Mance Rayder was chosen by them. It's like an electoral thing. They don't respect Westeros because their leaders are dictated by blood. And I think this new world that's going to be built at the end of the show will be based on democracy. And I think that's something that a wildling Tormund would be happy to be a part of. And I think that's another reason why Tormund would settle down and live. I think that's why he would live, because he represents the wildling journey, from being over the wall to, not wanting to be a part of Westeros and how they handle their politics, to now wanting to stay because they've established a successful democracy. So I think that's actually a really good interpretation of the character. I think it just kind of blew my mind there, but yeah, awesome. All right, what else do we got here? Have you all seen the leak? Nope, I haven't seen no leak. Please don't put it in the chat. If you know any leaks, don't spoil anything. Keep it quiet, and then we'll discuss it after the show airs. What do you think about Arya? I love Arya. Arya, for the first 4 seasons of the show, she was one of my favorite characters. She was actually, Jon was my number 1. She was my number 2. I don't really know where she fits now. I like her a lot. She's a bit weird. I want the best for her, but I feel like her arc is kind of coming to an end. Cersei's on her list, but I don't think it's her job to kill Cersei. I think that's reserved for someone else. So yeah, I think that's really her arc. 1 hour and 15 minutes till the long night ends, fellow GOT addicts. Yep, I actually it's very sad that it's coming to an end. It really sucks. If Jaime sacrifices himself to protect Bran, I would consider that a full redemption arc. Yeah, that's true. Chris is in Oshawa. What's going on, buddy? You're a lot closer to where I live than you think. I'll just say that. Shifty, the new title sequence was leaked, I think. No biggie. Oh, okay. I'm excited to see the title sequence. I was actually thinking about because it's the Night King, would the music change and be more slow and whatever? But the music is so iconic, they would never change that. So what would they even show? It would be like 30 seconds of King's Landing, and then it would show another 30 seconds of Winterfell, because all of our characters are just, they're doing that now. So I don't know. Da, 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 da. Jamie will probably be the Night King. I don't know. I don't think so. Great chat, Max. Got to go. Wish you all good fortune in the episodes to come. Thank you so much, Icy Fury. Really appreciate that. How long have we been even streaming right now? Whoa, we've almost been streaming for 2 hours. When did I start? I started at 6. Yeah, almost 2 hours. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, so you guys put down your remaining questions. I think I'm going to start wrapping this up very soon, and then I need to start, setting up for the episode. But let's see what else there is. And my throat is getting very dry. Hannah Marmba, the Night King is after someone, I'm convinced. Yeah, it makes sense, but what's funny is that, I went through all that in my Night King video. You can check that out. But really what I think, in terms who he's after, people said two different things. The producers of the show, Dan and Dave, said that he just represents death and wants to bring death. And then you have the Night King actor saying that he has a target. I think it's more likely for the Night King actor to slip up and say something he didn't mean. And I think it's more likely for Dan and Dave to lie to mislead people. And just when you look at the context of what that means, the Night King coming south for death doesn't make any sense. There's no leg to stand on for that, because if the Night King wanted to come south for death, why did he come when Daenerys birthed dragons, and why did he wait for them to grow full size? Why did he wait now? Why didn't he come back during Robert's Rebellion, where there was a giant war going on, and he could have just came in and picked everyone off? So it doesn't make any sense. And when he came back last time during the long night, there's no reason why he couldn't have won last time either. So the whole point of him coming for the whole point of him even coming just for death doesn't make any sense. So I don't understand that. The target makes much more sense. I think the Night King is after the Starks. I always said that Jon is after the Night King is after Jon. But then when you look at certain plot points, it's like, why didn't he go after Jon at that time or at that time? That's why I lean at, Jon and Daenerys may have a child, and that could be the one thing that he wants. But it's hard for me to say that knowing that it's hard for me to say that knowing that we only have 6 episodes long, and I'm supposed to believe that Daenerys is going to come full term and have a child in those 6 episodes. I don't think so. It seems very bizarre. Maramba, Night King is after Jaime and Cersei. Jaime definitely, because in the past life he pushed him out of a building, aka Bran is the Night King. Hey, maybe, who knows? I like how you wrap that around there. Yeah, we first need to understand the Night King, who the Night King is, the history, and behind his vengeance. I wonder if they'll explore that in this season. I don't know. Maybe Bran will actually do something useful and go back and look at something other than trying to figure out that Jon's a Targaryen multiple times. Hopefully. But we have seen in the past that there's some hints to that, him having a history and things like that. The Night King, the theory that the Night King is looking for someone buried in the crypts of Winterfell is super interesting. Yeah, I'm going to immediately dismiss that theory as not true. I feel like it holds no weight, because for you to understand why the Night King is coming south now, you need to understand why he came south last time. And last time there were no Starks. The last time he came south, there was no Winterfell. There was nothing. There was no crypt for him to go into, to break into. So that's why I think you can look at someone of a certain blood descent or something like that. But him going to the crypts of Winterfell, why would he wait all this time to go to the crypts of Winterfell? So just in terms of that, I don't know. I don't buy into it, but I like the idea. What else do we got here? Snowbox out. Really love Arya. Arya seems stronger than Jon Snow now. Possibly. They're both really good at fighting. I hope we actually get to see Arya do like some really faceless man assassin type stuff. So that would be awesome. Jon gets a dragon. Yeah, exactly. Hannah Maramba says the Night King has a motive. It's evident. Why didn't he kill Jon? That's a yeah, no, that's true as well. You know, he didn't kill Jon, and that could hint to, you know, when Jon fell in the ice, he just let him die or left him. But maybe he left him for a reason, because he knew that Jon would go and create maybe the Lightbringer weapon, which would be his child, or maybe he's waiting to get Jon Snow at a certain point, right? Like, who knows? Sorry, I'm getting a bit quiet. My throat is getting really painful. Okay, I'm going to read through the questions really fast. I'm going to finish off very soon, and then I need to get everything set up. Okay, guys? The Night King didn't come previously because he couldn't pass the wall due to magic spells associated with the wall. In terms of that, I don't know. He came before when there was no wall, and what destroyed the spells that were on the wall this time? Was it Bran when he passed the wall? Was it the Night King when his dragon blew down the wall? What was it that destroyed that magic on the wall? You know, I would believe that the people say that the wall was built by Bran the Builder, and they put magic and enchantments on it to keep the Night King out, because that makes them feel comfortable at night. But the reality is that the Night King built the wall with his magic. So yeah, there's multiple interpretations there. But yeah. Maybe there's something or someone down in the crypts of Winterfell that belongs to the Night King. Yeah, I just think at that point, if the Night King wants anything from the crypts of Winterfell, I think it's a very anticlimactic show. You know what I mean? He like destroys Winterfell, and he's like, "Thanks, guys, got what I want," and then he went and like goes back over the wall, right? So I think that there's a purpose there that that no one understands yet, and I think they'll uncover that over time with Sam, Melisandre, Bran, you know, those characters. Phyllis Wright asks, do you think that the three-eyed raven is the Night King's target? If so, Bran is a target. Also, I think that the three-eyed raven is the original child of the forest that turned him. Yeah, so that's possible. I talked about earlier, if Bran were to be the Night King, I talked about my theory on why. But in terms of Bran being a target, I feel like the one piece of evidence people have and they use is that the Night King went and killed the last three-eyed raven. But what I would say is Bran is the perfect contender to help fight the Night King. He's the tool to help fight the Night King. And there's a reason why he came south, and that could be Bran's development. But I don't think there was a three-eyed raven the last time the Night King came south. So, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly would it be that makes Bran the target. You know what I mean? What we've gathered is that him gathering Craster, he has a want for children, Craster's babies, right? And I feel like that plot point needs to feed into what he's after. So I think Bran himself, he's just going to drag Bran over the wall. I don't know what necessarily he's going to do. I think the characters share a connection, but I don't know if that's something that he actually wants. Vlad asks, why is the Night King the only one with magic powers? I would say the first aspect of his powers are like Bran. He has the ability to war, green sea, things like that. But when you go into like ice powers, things like that, I would just say because he's part human, part element. It's like his species. So that's why I would say the Night King is a little bit different than everyone else. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap up, guys. I'll stay on for about 2 more minutes. Let me know what the key points on what you think is going to happen in this episode. I'll read them off and give my thoughts on it. After that, I think I'm going to wrap up. I got to set everything up for Game of Thrones. Yeah, I think that's it. Gazelle Pendolini asks, why do you think there must always be a Stark in Winterfell? Yes, that's a good point too. With Starks, they always say that there should always be a Stark in Winterfell, and we know for a while there wasn't. And I like that idea, and I can't, doing it live right now, I can't give you an intellect, like I can't give you a proper intellectual answer on why, but I like the idea of that being a phrase that was reworked and told from generation to generation because of a reason. And that's like a lot of things I said with my theories on the Night King and like the Targaryen sigil. Only death can pay for life. That's the death of a child can pay for the life of everyone. I would like the idea in this season we'll see a lot of interpretations of what was always told in the show and thought as just culture, but it was integrated from the Long Night and from the last time the Night King came south. Ancient Treaty, 2 a.m. Okay, yeah, I think that's it, guys. I think we talked about it for a long time, for 2 full hours. In terms of, everyone here is asking, are we streaming Game of Thrones? I am not streaming Game of Thrones here. I'm watching it on TV. So honestly, I don't have any answers for you. If you guys are looking for the show, good luck. I know that, HBO offers a streaming service that you can check out. Other than that, I'm not sure. I'm not in on that stuff. But thank you so much, guys, for joining the live stream. It was a great time. I can't believe we talked for 2 hours. Like I said, you can expect me doing live streams on a Monday. Every single Monday, I'm going to be doing a live stream just to kind of discuss the last episode as well as discuss what we're going to expect next. So, yeah, I think that really sums it up. But until next time, see you guys later.